Dublin City Council have just put the nail in the coffin. They are limiting development again in the middle of a rental crisis. What Dublin City Council think that they've done is that they've clipped the wings of vulture funds or put a stake in the heart of vampire funds, but what they've really done is they've killed the rental market. The term vulture and vampire funds are terms used to describe institutional landlords. They're labelled with these terms to create a villain, spread fear and distract from the real issues. And by making institutional landlords and landlords the villains and using such terms as vampires, you dehumanize them and make them an easier target. And I'm going to adopt the exact same approach to illustrate how effective a tactic it is. By creating a villain and attaching dehumanizing imagery and terms to Dublin City councillors. The councillors are hangmen, they have a noose around Dublin, they're squeezing the life out of it, they're undertakers and they're putting the final nail in the coffin for Dublin. Terms and words can cause strong emotional reactions. But what I've just done, or what I've just tried to do, is trigger an emotional response from you rather than a rational one and create a villain out of the councillors. I don't want to demonise the council. Generally, I've had very good interactions with them, bar one planning permission that was dragged on for years for no good reason. But other than that, I've had very good interaction with the council and have generally responded quite quickly to any queries that I've had. To be a councillor or a politician, I think it's a thankless job and it comes with a lot of criticism, even this video. But there's no doubt Dublin has been on the downturn and has been for years. And it's like the council are trying to kill off the city. Anyone who likes nightlife in the city will know what I'm talking about. Any retailer will also know what I'm talking about. And anyone who's trying to look for rental accommodation within the city right now will also know what I'm talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't think of any meaningful investment or incentive by Dublin City Council that's aimed to drive people or bring people back into the city in any meaningful way. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Let me know if there is something that I am missing. But the other day, Dublin City councillors went against national guidelines, the national government strategy, and also the national interest by voting to restrict build for rent units to 40% of any new development, meaning that 60% of any new development had to be owner occupied or available for owner occupiers to buy, and the remainder 40% were available for build to rent. On the face of it, this may sound like a good idea and benefit buyers. However, in reality, most buildings or most developments within Dublin city centre aren't feasible to be built for owner-occupiers. It's just not affordable in most cases because build cost for an average 2-bed apartment within the city centre is over 600,000. By restricting the build for rent element within a new development to 40%, new developments just won't take place. Developers and investors just won't start. Hate on build for rent all you want, but realistically we're in the middle of a rental crisis and we need more rental units. If people can't find accommodation when they get a new job in the city, guess what happens? They leave that job and they leave the city. If that happens over and over again, businesses won't create new jobs within the city centre, which will have an impact on restaurants, cafes, gyms and pubs, and more people will be forced out of the city. Having a functional rental market in Dublin is vital. Without one, the city will die. I can't really make out that the villains in this story are the councillors. The councillors are serving their own interest and serving the interest of the people who voted for them within those areas. Part of the problem is that they're voted in or their votes are relied on by long-term residents who perhaps own their own home or are in a long-term estate accommodation. Those residents or those voters don't want nightclubs, they don't want cars coming into the city, and they don't want high-rises or developments near them. Therefore, the root cause of the problem in terms of why the councillors are voting against national interests is because their voters are well established in the area and they do not want the things that the majority of people want in Dublin. Those councillors are catering for well established residents within those areas and they're not catering for new people coming to the city. I myself have a house in the city and therefore I should be happy with this, that there's not going to be any more nightclubs or any more cars coming into the city or any more development happening in the city. Because ultimately, if I ever want to rent out my house, I'll be able to charge a fortune because there'll be nowhere else to rent from. But that's not what I want. I want a vibrant city where young people can come and go, rent easily, go to nightclubs, go to bars, have lots of restaurants and have lots of coffee shops. I want a young, vibrant city. Development of a city has major importance in terms of the long-term success of that city. A city can't just sit still. I've already created a video that illustrates how Dublin planning system is already set up to undersupply for the next 20 years. And by adding further restrictions on developments, we're going to end up in even a worse situation than I thought. And these decisions that are being made by the council are going to further damage the viability of Dublin City as a whole. The councillors are going against national and government strategy in terms of making this decision to limit build for rent units to 40% of a new development. Build to rent developments or developers shouldn't be seen as the villain. They should really be seen as part of the solution, part of a long-term solution to provide stable rental stock. I'm not saying this is a joke or a hollow statement, but Dublin is going to go down a very lonely road if it doesn't have a functioning rental market. It's time to start seeing past these fake villains and stop putting up roadblocks. The council needs to facilitate development, not actually put up more and more roadblocks to it. If you are interested in learning more about the real estate industry and the real estate market or investing in real estate, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There are additional links below. If you are interested in checking out that video explaining why Dublin is going to be undersupplied for the next 20 years, I will leave a link to it as well.